The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's monthly labor forecast webinar. Now, during our session today, and as we do with all our sessions, everyone is currently muted. So if there are any questions or any concerns that come up during our call today, please use the control panel area of your screen. There is a little questions area there as denoted here on my screenshot. Go in there, type in your question, and then just hit send, and it'll pop up on my screen, and I'll address it at the appropriate time during our call today. Now, as we talk about the monthly labor forecast today, we'll be going through the actual, going through a little demo of how to use the monthly labor forecast, but we'll start off with some introductory kind of background information on what got us to the monthly labor forecast, what exactly is this monthly labor forecast, and then we'll, like I said, provide you a little demo towards the end of our call today as to how to navigate through, how to run some basic, I guess you'd say reporting out of it. It's not really a report, but you can actually see the different views and see your information as it relates to the monthly labor forecast. For this call as well, I'm actually going to be in Hubble, and I think it's best if you actually just don't try to follow along. If you actually watch the screen, kind of go through there, formulate your questions, and then after we're done today, go in and actually try it for yourself. Now, one of the things you'll see here on my Hubble screen is that you actually have, and once again, what I'm showing here is the Hubble login window. You are going to be always asked for your email address, which is going to be that's the username for the Hubble product, and then your password, whatever it may be. Now, for some of those on this phone call here, it might be a refresher of some of the stuff that we go through today. For others, it might be the first time you've seen this. So we'll go through and make sure that you are able to run your monthly labor forecast on your own. So like I mentioned, your email address is going to be your user ID to get into this system. Now, the question becomes is, have you been set up with access to Hubble at this point, yes or no? And I really won't be able to tell you that offhand. The best way to know is if you have been set up, you would have been sent those credentials. If you have not been set up for this and you need access, you can go over to our gateway site, our internet site that we have set up here at ISS. And on that site, there is a tab called DocuWare, to which you can click on that from the home page, click on that DocuWare tab. And that DocuWare tab will take you straight to a couple different request forms. And one of those request forms is to request Hubble access. Once you fill that out via the online method, it'll be routed to our Hubble team, and they'll proceed from there to contact you with your credentials once it is set up. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here just to get in the system, and we're going to go and we'll get started. Now, as I log in here, you'll see that everybody automatically gets taken to this hub view. Now, what we do is, this is kind of maybe a refresher for some of you, and that's kind of what we're going to go through just kind of high level. But this hub view here is going to be providing you the ability to do a couple different things. Most importantly, you have a notification section here in the middle of the screen. So right here in the middle of the screen, this notifications area is going to provide you notifications whenever new versions of the dashboards are shared out with you. Now, the new versions that we work on, we'll get those set up, we'll get them working here, and then we'll share them out to you as needed. Currently, the monthly labor forecast is on version 2. We'll have a version 3 here probably coming up in the next month or so, maybe a couple weeks. And then we also have the ePay compliance dashboard that's on a different call here, but I'll just bring that up here. That's also available out there. But the bottom line thing is the notifications will always show you the new versions and allow you to access them. To access those versions, you can always click on the area that I had just selected, the notifications screen. Then you can click on the actual notification that's showing here for you. This one just tells me that someone has shared a workspace with me. And that workspace that was shared with me, in this case, is called ePay Compliance Dashboard 516-16. And all that is telling me is that when I go and click on that notification, it gives me the ability to see all the notifications that were shared out with me. and then it provides you links to those different workspaces. Once I click on one of those links, it'll actually open up that particular workspace for me. If I click on a link and I've already worked with that workspace before, more importantly, have it currently open, the system's going to provide me this message on the screen, and it's going to tell you that you already have it open. Do you want to create a new version, or do you want to open a new workspace, or do you want to just use the one you already opened up before? So you have the ability there to decide what you want to do there. But the cool thing about the notifications section is the notifications will always list the old notifications that were shared out with you. So that means that if I shared out a workspace, if I shared out a new version of the monthly labor forecast with you today, if you ever needed to go back to it, maybe you worked on it for a little bit, then can't get back into it, you can always go back to the notifications screen, open up that link that I sent you whenever it was. It could have been last week, it could have been last month, it could have been last year for that matter, and open up that version and start right back up, back into where you need to go. Now the other piece on the hub screen there is at the top right is called Open Workspaces. Now Open Workspaces allows you to see all the workspaces that you currently have open. And right now I show a big number 5 here because I do have 5 workspaces opened up that I'm working with. So this gives you a quick entry point back to where you left off. And also over here on the left-hand side, you have a shortcut called Workspaces on the black panel there on the left-hand side of your screen, or my screen here, and you'll be able to go in there and open Workspaces there as well. Now, the Open Workspaces, once again, it allows you to see what you've worked on or what you have been working on, and it returns you back to that last point where you last left off. So once again, if I'm in the middle of a monthly labor forecast workspace, and I'm looking at, let's say I'm looking at my jobs that don't have budgets, and then I have to step away, go to attend to a customer, or I'm going to lunch, or I'm going home for the day, whatever it may be, and I forget to close out of that workspace, the system will remember and allow you to pick up. Next time you go back into this Open Workspace, it allows you to pick up right where you left off and proceed. So it remembers where you go within this workspace. If for some reason I closed out all the way and I don't have them available in Open Workspaces at this point for me, this is where I was talking about. As you now go back to notifications, look for the last notification that was sent out to you in regards to the workspace version you want to open that up, and you're back in business. So for this one, I'm going to open up the monthly labor forecast, and the monthly labor forecast will show you as it comes up. It'll show you exactly where I last left off, where coincidentally I was already on the opening screen or the overview window, and then you'll see that it's actually trying to do a couple of different things here. You'll see occasionally you'll see pictures flash. You'll see maybe some of the numbers or the data update. This is perfectly normal. The system is going out there and looking for updates and refreshes constantly. And it does it every time you go to a new page within this workspace. Now before I go into the actual workspace for you today, I want to actually bring to your attention the section there in the middle of the screen. It's called Instructions. The overview page is the first page that you are brought to when you first go to the monthly labor forecast for the first time. And this instructions section is going to give you a little overview of the monthly labor forecast. Basically tells you the intent, the purpose, and at the very bottom of it, it's going to give you some documentation. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that circled here, but if I scroll through here, it'll tell you basically the overview that this dashboard that we're actually working on right now is really going to provide the operators a forecast of your hours and wages by job for the current calendar month. Now this is really just for hourly wages and hourly worked hours. Furthermore, if you go through there, the forecast is always going to include actual hours and wages from ePay from the start of the month through 2 days ago, and includes calculated average hours and wages from yesterday to the end of the current month. I'll explain that in a little bit more detail when we go into a certain section here shortly. Now, as you go through here, you'll see that the dashboard is going to provide you a variety of different features and functions that are going to be helpful to you. Many of the users come in, they log into this monthly labor forecast, and they see everything they need to see here on this first window. However, you have the ability to drill down into any of these figures, any of these numbers that are on the screen, and get more detail. The one thing to keep in mind with the monthly labor forecast is it's going to be built around your security and your access. So if you need access to, for example, Houston. Houston is your company, and it's company 103, and that's the only company you need access to. Then when you log in here, you're only going to have access to that company. So for today's purposes and for our discussion today, I have a lot more access. Obviously, I see everybody. So I'm going to go through and from a bigger picture, show you some examples of how things are being done around the country. Now, furthermore, if I scroll down in this little instructions section, it provides me two user guides at the very bottom. The second of the two is called the Hubble Navigation Guide. I'm not going to go through it today in detail on this call, but this is just the basic navigation of Hubble. And I'm bringing it up here so you can actually see what's going to happen. If I click on that link, it's going to take me to Gateway to automatically log in there, to which I'm just going to go there and put in ISS internal because I am here within ISS right now. And I can actually go in there and it'll take me right to that Hubble documentation. So you can go through here, it'll give you a little overview and table of contents of what's going to be covered in this document. But it gives you some step-by-step of how to do these functions, how to log in, how to share, how to add a shared workspace, how to, export in Excel, stuff of that nature. I'm going to go through some of this stuff in our demo as well. That's the first document. That is, actually, that's the second document on the list. That's called the Hubble Navigation Guide. Now, the first document that's listed there, the Monthly Labor Forecast Guide, is what I'm going to be going through today in detail. So after this call, it'd be a good idea to go out to this, log into the Hubble, make sure you can log in. But more importantly, go in here and once you've logged in, go into this monthly labor forecast, go into the instructions section, and actually open up this monthly labor forecast user guide. Now I'm going to go ahead and share with everyone here on the screen. I'm going to scroll and talk through this from the screen here. But essentially, for our discussion today, I'm going to go through this guide, and we're going to go through initially what the intended purpose and the expected usage of this system is for all of us, so we all know we have expectations of what we should be doing with this information that's given to us. We're also going to go through just a big picture, kind of overview, show you some of the functionality and features. We're going to discuss the different data sources, basically where's the data coming from, what makes up these numbers that you see in the monthly labor forecast. We're going to go through some drill downs that are available for you out there. We're going to go through and explain to you why labor analysis is separated by billing type. And some of these terminology, some of these terms, if you don't understand what they mean, I'll go through and kind of define these terms. But most importantly, at the very end, there's a cool little functionality that allows you to see what the actual production rate is for any of your jobs in the monthly labor forecast. So this functionality is all brand new. I mean, we rolled it out early, I guess sometime in June, end of June, early July, and we offered some overview training at that point, and now we're just going down the road, and more and more people are using this on a daily basis. And it's because it's very critical that you, if you're on this call, that you actually log in here and actually look at your jobs, see how the budgets are running, and see what your forecast is for the month coming up. Now, for example, today is December the 1st, so a new month has started with the monthly labor forecast. The monthly labor forecast works on a month-by-month basis. So it looks at how you're doing in the month now of December. So we start month of December. It's going to go through the month of December. There's no going back to November now because November's done. And for all technical purposes, we can't go back and fix any budgets there. We can't fix any of the numbers or what the ultimate forecasted amount was or how you ended up the month of November. That's kind of, that ship has sailed and gone. So we're going to be looking forward, and once again, it's a month-by-month basis. So if I log in February, then I'm going to see February information. If I log in, like I said, today in December, I'll be looking at December information. So the expected usage and intended purpose of this system is pretty straightforward. We actually expect all of our users to spend at least 5 minutes a day, and we put 5 to 20 because some users will have tons and tons of more jobs than others, but typically 5-10 minutes tops a day by all levels of operations, from the managing director down to the district manager, to log in there and actually review your jobs. The intended purpose there when you review your jobs is to go in there and discover and fix any labor issues as early as possible. What that basically means is this system is forecasting to the end of the month, kind of projecting what you're expected to make on a profit level when it comes to your labor. So you can quickly identify and quickly handle your labor situation. If you know we're on the 10th day of the month and we still have 20 days to go and you're already $1,000 over budget on labor, you've got 20 days to correct it. So going in there on a daily basis, you're going to be able to catch and see the trends and see what is going on each of your jobs. We're also going to, the intended purpose of this is also go in there and ensure that your labor budgets are correct. One of the key things about this process is to make sure that your budgets are up to date, they're showing accurate numbers, because when we run this report, it's going to take those actuals that you've actually done in Blueforce and compare it against those budget numbers. And hopefully it's for the good side, but if those budgets are wrong, you could really be misstating your labor. One of the sessions we've been offering, kind of as a review for you, is discussion on how to do your budgets. And one of the things, whether it be via the webinar that you attend or whether it be working with someone within our ePay team here, currently we are the ones that are going to be handling your labor changes, your budget changes, and stuff of that nature. So one of the things that's different, that's a little different, and some of you hopefully already all heard the changes, but for those that have been submitting budgets and their budget changes to the OSG really is just transferred over to the ePay team. So whether it be myself, whether it be Tiandra, Jade, or Beth, there's 4 of us now in our team here. One of us can assist you with those labor changes. Now, the general process here to update those is that we have a monthly labor forecast Excel export that you can use to record those budget changes. And what we're asking is from a district manager or any of the management there at the local office to go ahead and go in there, review your labor budgets. If you see a discrepancy, use a little export that I will be detailing shortly on this call. Send those changes over to the GM. Mark your changes on the Excel spreadsheet. Send it over to the GM. The GM is going to approve those budget changes and send them to the OSG, like I mentioned, one of the 4 of our part of this ePay team. And then the OSG here now then will update that budget in JD Edwards, and it's going to be reflected immediately. So the minute we update those changes, you can go back into your monthly labor forecast dashboard and see those changes immediately. So there's no delay, there's no lag time whatsoever. It's a live system. Now, as we go through today, we're going to go through some of these features that are going to be available for you. Now, this workspace, and when you hear the word workspace is talking about the whole monthly labor forecast. The monthly labor forecast is comprised of 7 pages of information. We just showed you the first one, the overview screen. It's the only thing I've showed you so far. But all these pages combined make up the workspace in total. And the workspace features a couple sections that are going to be key for your benefits out in the field. The first section is going to be a fixed fee and square footage job area. So, and actually it's not really area, it's a panel. It refers to as different panels. These panels that you're going to see are going to actually take your fixed fee and square footage related jobs and put them in one area. And then your other type jobs, like anything that's considered cost plus or event-based or service day or loaded rates, some of that nature, will be in a different bucket per se, or different panel when we go into the monthly labor forecast. You'll also be able to go to one of the different pages and see your production rate for the janitorial jobs. So you can go in there and see what you're actually running and kind of what your production rate is. So these are some functions that will be available to you, and I'll go through all these here in our demo momentarily. As we go through here, you do have the ability to actually drill down, like I mentioned. So if the screen were to tell you that you are forecasted to make $50,000 this month based on via labor, you can actually go here and say, you know what, 50,000 doesn't really mean much to me. I want to drill down into that number. So depending on where you are in the system or within the workspace, you'll be able to drill down from a company level down to your project, district, jobs, and even down to daily hours on those jobs. If you are on maybe a job level, you'll be able to even go down into the timesheet to see the actual punches that were made, total hours that were accumulated over in the Blue Force system. And for those that are, I think everyone should be pretty aware, Blue Force is our system that we're using to clock in and clock out with. So then you will see there that from the job section, you can drill down into timesheets, your manual timesheets, your daily hours, and even your labor budget. And I'll show you that specifically, so you can actually see what you're actually making in the actual labor budget. Broken out, to specific buckets. What exactly is making up that labor budget by position, for example. So I may have a custodian being paid at a certain rate, how many hours a week, etc., etc. So I'll show you that here momentarily as well as part of our demo. All right, so one of the big things about our data sources. Now we have data flowing from a whole bunch of different locations to make this report possible for you. And once again, this monthly labor forecast workspace is something actually new to our industry. There's never been a tool like it. This is something that our team here collectively, there's been quite a few hands in this nice big puzzle here that put this together, that have given us a nice forecasting tool that is actually accurate right down to the dollar. So the workspace here is going to provide you a real-time labor forecast for hourly workers for the current calendar month, and I've kind of mentioned that a couple of times already. It does not include salaried employees into this mix. Now, the workspace includes data from a couple different areas. It's going to include your actuals from ePay based on your timesheet and manual timesheet. For future dates that have not occurred yet, where there is no actuals, we'll then pull in average labor from ePay based on a trending 5-week period. That comes from the timesheet and manual timesheet as well over in Blue Force. And then lastly, we're going to pull in your budget labor from your JD Edwards operating budgets. So for those GMs that are on the phone call, those management teams that have been on the phone call today, you may have been asked to put budgets together in the past. May or may not. And if you have, that information was entered into JD Edwards, and now this system, the monthly labor forecast, will actually pull those budgets back, those numbers, and actually use them for our calculations. Now the way this workspace works, the monthly labor forecast works on the premise that it's going to show actual labor from the start of the month through 2 days ago, and then the average labor through the end of the month as follows. Now, for example, we're gonna use the example here on the screen. Today is December the 1st, so we can say that May 1st here on the screen shows averages for the whole month. What that basically means is when you go into the monthly labor forecast on the first day of the month, since there are no actuals yet for that month, everything is going to show based on an average figure straight across the board. If I would say to wait 4 days, and I come in back here on December the 4th, December the 4th would show me actuals now for the first 2 days of the month, the 1st and 2nd, but from the 3rd on, it's going to show averages. Now, we do operate the monthly labor forecast with a 2-day lag for all technical purposes. And we do that because it gives you plenty of time as a user to go in and make your reviews of your time, make your edits or any corrections to times that are out there. So that way, when those actuals are made available in the monthly labor forecast, they are accurate. Now I'll explain why that's important here momentarily. But as we go through the month, you'll see the 6th of December would be, the first 4 days would be actuals, the rest would be average, and so forth. And we'll go through this and show a little bit more example of this in our live demo. Now, when we're talking about actuals specifically, actuals are pulled from ePay, like I mentioned, from the timesheet and manual timesheets. The workspace will always show you average labor for the prior day to allow operations 1 full business day to ensure that the labor through the 2 days ago is accurate. And that's the key point here. We're giving you time to make sure that everything is accurate. The reason why we do this is because as an operator, you need to ensure that the following issues are resolved by the end of the next business day, because open and partial punches, if I don't go in there and correct them when I'm supposed to, the forecast will be understated until open and partial punches are resolved. What that means is if I was your employee and I did not punch in today, and I don't go in and fix that, shortly after it occurred, and I say wait 3, 4, 5 days to do so, if you're reviewing the monthly labor forecast on a daily basis, your report, every time you looked at it in that 4 to 5 day span, it's going to show understated. So you're going to have issues with those numbers. So make sure that you are correcting those open and partial punches. Manual time. Technically, those manual time is the example I gave you, but same thing there. Forecast will be understated until the manual time is entered. Manual time has to be eliminated wherever possible. One of the key things to make this work is we need to make sure the employees are punching in and punching out. We want to make sure that they do it. We want to provide them a proper way to clock in, whether it be the clock, whether it be to be a phone in, which is a toll-free number, whether it be mobile punch. Mobile punch is a smartphone app that employees can go to the smartphone and punch in and punch out, or it could actually possibly use web punch. And web punch is an online internet-based login clock-in system. So you basically go into a website online and log in there and punch in, punch out. Lastly, work orders. Work orders for contract jobs have to be used. If the forecast will be overstated for a contract job if the work order number is not used. One thing to keep in mind is our budgets are always based on actual actual figures, but based on your regular contractual work. If we take on an extra side job, extra tag work, extra one-time job, all these different terms that are given to those extra work we pick up. But if we pick up that extra work and we don't code it to a work order, that extra work, those hours, are going to be going towards that regular contractual figure, which is going to throw your labor out of whack real quick. So it is important that we use work orders on all of our contract jobs. And the next component of other than actuals is our averages. So like I mentioned, the averages are always calculated in the system based on a trailing 5-week average of hours and dollars worked by job by day. So the averages are going to be used in the workspace to forecast the job's labor spend through the remainder of the current month. So essentially, every Thursday morning, we have a process that runs that goes in there and calculates all of the averages for all the jobs. So what that basically says is, for example, we're on December the 1st now, and it happens to be a Thursday. Since we have no actuals yet for the month of December, the system is using that average, like I mentioned. So what the system is doing is taking your average of the last 5 Thursdays, compiling a kind of figure for us, and using it as a placeholder for December the 1st. Come the 3rd of December, once we have actuals released into the monthly labor forecast, that average figure will be replaced with the actual figure that was actual labor figure that was calculated over in Blue Force. Now, the exception to this rule is if there's a holiday in question. If a holiday occurs within a month, this program that we use is going to use each job budget's holiday and labor settings, if there's anything set up, to adjust the average for that day as follows. So if there is a holiday and it's deemed a no-pay holiday, then the hours and amount for that holiday are going to be set to 0. So for example, Christmas. If we know that is a holiday in which we have deemed in the system that there's no pay that day for this job, then it will return a 0 on that day. Otherwise, it's going to use the same average and expect you to have some labor that day. Now, that labor is deemed a premium pay holiday, the amount will be increased accordingly. And if only some of the employees are set to work holidays in the labor budget, then the hours and dollars are going to be prorated accordingly. So bottom line, if you have a holiday in play, it's going to automatically work for you properly when it comes to this particular monthly labor forecast. The last component of these numbers is the budget. As I mentioned, the budget comes from J.D. Edwards. The JDE labor budget, including the labor accrual, always represents a 21.75 day leveled budget. Now keep in mind that 21.75 day figure is a, I guess for lack of a better word, it's a industry standard. I know here at ISS and even before ISS, for those that were with us during our Santa Tours days, we've used that 21.75 as long as I can remember. Now, because this workspace is based on actual calendar days in a month, the labor budget from JDE is programmatically adjusted up or down based on the number of days in that month we're looking at. So the example of how this would affect us is if you look at that table down below. If we're looking at the month of July, there was 21 days in the month of July. If we use that 21.75 day leveled budget figure, that would give us 2,175 hours for the month, based on a figure that we're going to use 100 hours, and based on we're going to budget a job for 100 hours a day at $1,000 a day as well. If we look at the monthly labor forecast analysis, is based on the actual number of days. That $1,000 a day figure times 21, when actually 21 days in July, we equate to 2,100 hours. So the regular difference here, $2,100, sorry. The difference there, 2,100 hours for $21,000, and the difference there you can see is 75 an hour and $750 by using the actual number of days versus that 21.75 figure. So all in all, when you go in here and look at your monthly labor forecast, it's based on days, straight out. The number of days you work, the number of days in the month, that it's based on the day figure. You will see as we go on that the month of September gives you 2,200 hours versus 2,175 hours going the other way. So you can kind of see that 21.75 was not the best way to handle this, and now that we're actually looking at by day, we are actually looking at this the perfect way to forecast our jobs. So those are the three kind of components: the actuals, the averages, and the budgets that we'll be dealing with, and you'll be seeing here momentarily in our demo. Now, one of the things I'll also show you in our demo here as we go through here, we might not see anything since today is December the 1st. We may not be able to see any of these examples, but I'll try to find something if I can. These are pay types and spend categories. Now, the best way to look at this, the best way to explain this is actually go through the monthly labor forecast. Each rate type that's denoted in your ePay timesheets is going to determine a couple of different things over on the financial side. It's going to determine what JDE GL account to hit, and more specifically, it's going to identify or determine the spend category in the monthly labor forecast. So when you're in the monthly labor forecast, you may see some colored sections or colored entries. And these colored entries are going to be labeling those spend categories. So one thing I will notice here, if you look at the screen here, if you look that there are a couple spend categories here, and spend categories are right here. If your timelines, your timesheet lines, and this information will be visible straight from the ePay timesheet views in the monthly labor forecast. If I go in there and look at any lines that are just plain white, untouched, just black and white text, those are going to be your spend categories for worked hours. So worked hours meaning someone actually worked as a regular pay, or they actually worked holiday worked, or they actually worked as snow pay. Some of these, let me preface, some of these pay types are not available to you specifically because you have no need for them, whereas parts of the country, they do have snow pay. For example, in Denver, at our DIA operation, our aviation group, they use these snow pay types where you may not. So don't fret when you see these different types. If you see any of these worked items in orange, these are denoted that they are worked items, but they are back pay scenarios where we had to go back and enter back pay for whatever reason. So we purposely did these color codes so you can quickly see things that are out of the ordinary, that are not just regular work time. There's other things going on with those timesheet entries. The reds are going to denote any non-work situations. So if you go in here and someone gets paid holiday non-work, or will they have jury duty pay, or they get birthday or anniversary pay, those are considered non-work scenarios. If they are in blue, then they're going to have PTO scenarios where they actually use personal time. Or for some of us on the phone call, you may still have to break it out to vacation, sick, and personal, and et cetera. So you can see the different options there. And lastly, the greens are like the others. If you have any situation in Blue Forest where you pay an employee meal reimbursements, mileage, parking, stuff of that nature out of Blue Forest, it'll denote it in green here for you as well. Now, in any of these situations in which an employee gets overtime, or is basically earning overtime for that time that may or may not have been worked or non-worked, that time that's overtime will be in bold. So you'll see a bolded entry. And then lastly, work orders. If we ever use work orders and we code time to a work order, that information will be italicized for you in the timesheet view in monthly labor forecast. So all in all, why are we basically separating the labor analysis by billing type? The big deal behind this is because, once again, and to kind of explain, I kind of went over it quickly earlier at the beginning of our call, we have essentially two types of buckets here. We have a bucket that has our fixed fee and square footage jobs. Those are the jobs that obviously we have to keep our thumbs on. We can't stray off of those with extra labor, because we have a fixed fee coming in every month, which is a contractual amount. If we know we're making $5,000 a month on this, we have to make sure that we remain under $5,000 if we want to stay profitable with that job. The other bucket is those other kind of flexible, or and more times than not, the scenarios where you're going to bill back a customer. So like the cost plus, the loaded rate, attendance, service day based jobs, those fall in a different bucket. So they're a little different, they're handled differently. Now, any project with a mixed billing type will be split according to each job's billing type. So if you have a project in there that may have 5 different jobs, if 3 of them are fixed fee and 2 of them are cost plus for whatever reason, they would show split into 2 different buckets whenever we review the monthly labor forecast. Now, the big reason to separate the 2 here is that when you roll up the labor variance figure, including all billing types, any labor budget shortfalls in a fixed fee or square footage jobs would always be masked by the labor budget gains in a cost plus, loaded rate, attendance day, etc. type job. So the example I have here in this blue section, this little blue spreadsheet, shows you that if I had a cost plus job and a fixed fee in the same project together, the cost plus job, making a 5% markup, would provide us actual labor of $14,000, a budgeted labor of $15,000, with a labor variance of $1,000 in that example. So from that perspective, it looks like we're making $1,000 on that cost plus job. However, if we do that, look at the fixed fee side of or the other fixed fee job as part of this project, and that job had $5,000 in labor and had only $4,000 in budgeted labor, we were $1,000 over. The project would seem that we broke even. So from a project level, that difference would be masked. And you'd say the project level and say, you know what, hey, I broke even. It's not that it's bad, but at least we're not losing money. However, what would otherwise falsely appear to be a zero variance is actually a $1,000 overrun in fixed fee expense and a $50 shortfall in cost plus revenue, because we have to take that $1,000 times 5%. So all in all, that is a good example as to why we separate the 2 different buckets on the monthly labor forecast. We want to keep the fixed and square footage separate from all the other types that are available to us. So I'm going to actually go back to the monthly labor forecast here real fast. I'm going to refresh my screen, and if you look here on the screen, you'll see something. Each of the different panels have a little circle that's turning right now. That little circle is a refresh indicator, and that refresh indicator is letting you know that it's trying to update those different numbers right now. Now, like I mentioned, this is December the 1st of the month. So all the figures in here that we see are going to be based on averages as far as the monthly labor forecast is concerned. Now, as I go through here, I'm going to point out a couple things. You will see that you have some like items, you will see that you have labels. For example, the one on circle here says events, cost plus, loaded rate, etc. The one at the bottom that looks identical to it shows fixed. So the way this is actually working out for you as you go through here is that all of the costs, I like to just do this. I just like to draw a line down the middle of the page here. And the top of the page here, top of the pink line, the two indicators there, the far left-hand corner, which I'll denote as 1, and number 2 over here, those two are all related to your events and cost plus type of billings, jobs, I'm sorry. So whenever you do get a cost plus scenario, your information and those jobs that are set up that way, you can actually go into those areas to look at your information regarding those cost plus scenarios. For the purpose of our call today, I'm actually going to go through the ones at the bottom of the page. The bottom of the pages are the ones that are your fixed fee and square footage type jobs. Those are ones that there's a little bit more. There's 4 screens for those, and we'll be focused on those examples as we go through today. Okay, so let me go in here. I'm going to go ahead and clear my drawings. And the first thing I want to go through here with you today is go through and show you. We're going to start with this yellow, the 2 yellow money bags. And the 2 yellow money bags there is the panel that's labeled Projects Over Budget. Now this is a good place for you to go and see which projects are currently over budget. Now it's pretty bad that we are at the beginning of the month and we already know that there's 434 projects out there that are going to be over budget just based on the forecast that's been created for us. So if you ever come in here and see that you have anything in that first money bag, like I said, 434, since I'm looking at the company, that's company-wide, so that number seems still to be a little too high, but nevertheless, if you ever come in here and see any number in there, we need to look at that pretty quickly. So from a daily review, when you come in here, monthly forecast, you look at the screen. If you just look at these items on this screen, these 6 panels that are shown here, minus the instructions, that is a good starting point to be able to ward off the bad news at the end of the month when you actually are over budget. So go in here. I'm going to go in here first and click on my 434. And if you look at the very bottom, it says I have 434 projects. I have 622,000 in variance down below. So basically here from this screen, if I go ahead and double click on that particular metric, or that panel, I'm sorry, it'll actually bring up the 2 money bags kind of large at the middle of the screen. Now what you can actually do here is while it's pulling up your picture at the top of the screen, it's actually working on pulling up the actual data that backs up those numbers. So all I did is I double clicked on this particular metric this panel from the overview screen. It's made it huge on the screen for me. And if I want to, I can take this little divider in the middle of the screen, and it's kind of hard to denote this. I'm going to circle it here, but right in here you'll see you have 3 little dots that are available to you. So I'll go ahead and just click there and hold my left click on my mouse. I can actually drag that top view up. It'll actually shrink those pictures for me, and that's perfectly fine. This will give you more space to kind of look at your jobs at the bottom of the screen. Now, the 434 jobs that are on my screen are now going to be listed for you at the bottom of the bottom half of the window now. So I have 434 jobs I can go through and see, more specifically 434 projects I can go through and see the actual job count. So for example, the first one is called BIE Systems. This project has 15 jobs, to which the variance right now is 85,849. So from this point, we have the ability now to drill down into that project to see what actually, which job of those 15 is the issue. Is it all the jobs that are creating this variance, or is it just 1 or 2, bad jobs that are in there that are causing it, and that's where I need to focus my attention on. So to drill down, if I just click anywhere on that line, whether it be on anywhere on this first line, I'm just going to highlight the whole line here just so you can see. If I go anywhere on that first line, I can right-click and I get some different options. One of the options that's on this list is to drill down to the summary labor by job. This is the very first one that's on the list. The summary labor by job basically gives you a breakout by job. So those 15 jobs in this particular project will be laid out individually so you can actually see where your variance is. Once again, is it on all 15 jobs, or is it just maybe 2 or 3 jobs that are causing all this issue? So I'm going to go ahead and I select that summary labor by job, and the system, you see at the bottom right hand of the screen, you see the refresh indicator turning, and it'll pull in those 15 jobs and show you the different variances for each of those jobs. Now the cool things, some of the key things to take out of this screen is, first off, this first column here is going to tell you what your hours are. It's going to tell you exactly how many hours we have remaining and how many dollars we have remaining based on your forecast. So this is telling me, I'm already on December the 1st here. So for the whole month here, I have 991 hours remaining for this job and $11,000 remaining for this first job. But right now, based on my forecast, I'm projected to be off about $600. 600 hours. $600. Yep. So you can, and from there, have the ability now to say, I now know what I need to fix. So you can actually go in, start working towards that. But more importantly, these dollars remaining are coming in from your budgets. So one of the things you want to do from here is now go into your labor budget. If that number is indeed incorrect, you can actually now go into your labor budget and see what exactly was budgeted for the different positions that are available at that job site. So to that note, let me go ahead and clear my screen here. What I can actually do here is right-click on that job, and like I did on the project level a while ago, I right-clicked. I'm at the job level. I'm going to right-click at the job, and I'm actually going to go down here and actually click on Drill to Labor Budget. Now, when I click on Drill to Labor Budget, the system now gives the ability to see that particular job's labor budget. So in this case, once again, let me circle a couple of different things here. Left-hand side here, it's your jobs. And it repeats the job because this is telling me that I have 5 different lines of specific tasks that are being worked at that job. And I call them positions, but yeah, they're referred to as tasks here. So there's 5 different tasks that are available. And you'll notice that the porters, there's like 2 porters out of the 5 total tasks. Well, the reason why they're listed twice is because of that pay rate that is budgeted for those specific tasks. So what this is telling me is that for the first one, at $9.50 an hour, I have a porter that's estimated to work 40 hours a week, which gives me a weekly figure of $380, a monthly figure to pay that porter for his labor of $1,600. Next one is at $10 an hour. You can carry it over and see the total hours and dollars for each of those positions, and so forth. Now, as I go through here, you have now the ability to go through here and kind of see what you've actually budgeted. Now, let's say you go through here and realize, you know what, that $10 porter is really an $11 porter. We actually gave him a raise. Well, how do you address that? So that goes back to the explanation of how do you get your changes to your general manager, and then general manager gets them to the OSG group or the ePay team group. Now, in either of those cases, let me clear my screen here. You have the ability on the screen to now export that data into an Excel format. So what it would do is if you click down the bottom area of the screen where the data is, you'll see that you have I'm going to do my best here to kind of circle this around here, but around the edge of that particular box, you'll see that you have these little blue dots. The little blue dots denote that you've actually selected the data in that section. So in this section, I've selected the data. The next thing you'll see that up here at the far right-hand corner, you'll have these 3 little dots that are faintly in gray that often are hard to see. But if I put my mouse pointer right over that, it's going to allow me to now select those three dots and give me an option to save Excel. Now when I click on Save Excel, what this does for me, it will export any data that's at the bottom of the page. Now this goes for everything straight across the board. So if you ever want to export what you see on the screen into an Excel format so you can actually send it off to somebody else, or maybe save it off on your computer, or like I'm going to show you here, send out those changes to the OSG, you can actually simply go up there, click on that three dots, and click on Save Excel. When I click on Save Excel, this now gives me the ability to download it to Excel. And you'll see the screen, it'll come up here real quick. When I click on Download, the system will open up Excel for me. And I'm going to drag this over to have it on my other screen here. That is exact duplicate of the data that's on the window here. I'm going to see if I can show you both screens at a time. You can take a look at it. But in both cases, there is the actual exported budget. Now, as I mentioned a while ago, if we go through here and you have a change to make, you have the budget here all nicely detailed, and it's better to export out here because you don't have to go through and retype anything. Everything is here for you. And it actually helps us on the OSG. It helps us in our group to quickly decipher what you want to do. So the easiest ways I recommend is if you know that this $10 an hour employee is really an $11 an hour employee, I would just copy that line down to the bottom of my Excel spreadsheet. And right above that, I would make a little note saying change pay rate. And I always like to highlight it so it brings attention that exactly knows what exactly we know exactly what you're trying to do. So you're telling us you want to change your pay rate. You go over here to that particular field that's showing a $10 rate. Go in there and change it to $11 and highlight that as well so we know that that was the difference. So when we look at that $10 rate, we know that now that $10 should be now $11. Or let's say maybe that first quarter, you need 2 employees instead of 1 that's listed on here to work that $950 position, $950 an hour position. So if I go down here at the bottom, do the same thing, just copy and paste that line. And this time I'm going to say increase number of employees. Perfect. All right. So if I do that, I'm going to go ahead and highlight that little note there as well. Then I'm going to go in here, and the 950 is perfectly fine. We're just going to increase the number of employees from 1 to 2. And there you go. You're done. It is critical because if we do not include that other employee in this case, you are going to be probably short about 40 hours a week. Or in this case, I think the monthly hours came out to about 173.20 in a month. So it does make a difference heavily. So once you've actually noted your changes there, at this point you can now save your document. You can save this spreadsheet off to your computer if you like to. A lot of you like to save stuff. Or what I would recommend you doing is just going up to your file menu, and you have an option here to share. Now when I click on the word share, I have the ability to share that document, that Excel spreadsheet, via email, to which I can now send as an attachment. So this automatically, without saving anything, it will compile your Excel spreadsheet, put it as attachment on an email message, to which now you can send to your general manager. Your general manager will then review those changes. If they are good to go, the general manager at that point will then forward this message to the OSG. There is no need to include the OSG on any of these initial emails until it has been approved by that general manager, at which point then we can get involved and make those changes for you. So at this point, when I click on send as attachment, I have my email open on my other screen here. I'll just show you what's going to happen here. It'll put your Excel spreadsheet there. All we ask you to do is change your subject line to mean something. So I can go in here, start off with my job number, and then as I enter my job number here, I can say labor changes, Something to know. It'd be nice if you actually include the job number there. It helps us a little bit more, but at least you'll see that. It'll help the general managers will know what exactly you're trying to convey. And then just address it. Once I address it to somebody, send it off. That general manager will get that email from me, at which point they can then review it and then forward it off to the OSG for immediate fixing. Now that's the labor budget. That's a quick little thing on that. And I have a question here. I just want to make sure I address it before I go too far. So that the budget and hours are entered per the cost labor budgets, the question is, I don't understand how it can be over. Well, sometimes if the budgets are submitted to us and they are either A, incorrect when they're submitted, or B, more importantly, are not followed by the operations team, the actual hours that are worked could be over that budget amount, resulting you being over budget. So from that transition point, and I hate to say this, but don't always assume, unless it's you yourself that's in charge of that job, don't always assume that the other management team or the other operations individuals that work with you are actually on the same page and are actually making sure that employees don't work overtime or don't work more hours than they're supposed to, et cetera, et cetera. But I will say that some labor budgets that are in the system now may have been there for quite some time. So another thing with that is that labor budgets do change. Maybe we this particular building we took on new business, or maybe we maybe added more employees because of that, or vice versa, we lost some square footage in the building and now we have less employees to pay. Both ways. We don't want to be over budget, but at the same time we don't want to be extremely under budget. So we want to make sure we hit that number pretty darn close. Now I have to go through drilling down. Like I said, I drilled down into the job. I'm going to back up and show you how I got there one more time. But at the very top of the screen here, we have a little section of links that are available to you. And these links are called breadcrumbs. What this is telling you is right now I went from page 1 to page 2 to page 3 based on these different links that are showing here under the link section. So with that, I'm on section 3 here. What does that basically says is if I want to go and click on the previous page, I can always go back to the construction labor by job. It'll take me back to the view that I was just at. Or I can go back to my original view of the projects and see all my projects here without ever leaving this window. The breadcrumbs will come in handy and save you some clicking time. If I actually close out by hitting the X in the top right-hand corner of this particular area, it's going to knock me out back to the overview screen. So keep that in mind. It'll knock you back to the beginning page that you were on. Now this little first section is the project over budget. So just so you know, you always have the ability there to go in there and see any projects that are over budget. And once again, I went into that. It pulled up all the listing of all the jobs that were over budget. And then I decided that I wanted to go see, so all my projects are over budget. And I decided I wanted to right-click on a project and go into the summary labor by job. So I saw the information now at a job level. And then from there, once the job's populated, I went ahead there and now right-clicked and now went out into the actual labor budget for that specific job. Now, if I always wanted to, I could actually also come in here and, you know, I'm looking at my variance. I'm looking at it and saying, you know what, there's something not right here. I can actually go in and actually look at the actual timesheet hours for an employee as well at that job. If I ever come in here and drill down to the timesheet level, the system will come in here and show you any punches that are currently in the system for that particular employee. Now, one thing I will stress, and I've been talking about it a couple times during our call, I said that there's a 2-day lag when it comes to that forecast. Okay? Well, whenever you go in here and go over the detail at the job level and actually look at those timesheet views, it's actually pulling live data from Blueforce. So what Blueforce is doing is it's actually sending every 30 minutes some information back to this monthly labor forecast. So you can actually come in here and see anything that's occurred in the month of December. Now, Doing a class on December the 1st is hard to show you all the examples because we don't have all that data populated. But for this one, we'll see that you actually have someone that's already worked 10 hours at this job on today, on the 1st. So you kind of see that they had $100 total. There was no work order. The pay rate was $10 an hour, etc. So this gives you a good example of how you can actually see timesheet entries. As the month goes on, you will see this in full detail of all the entries of all the time that was collected in Blue Force that made up your actual hours in Blue Force. On the monthly labor forecast. And then the other view I'll just quickly show you is it's called daily hours. Now, daily hours is essentially the view that you can actually see what your forecast at every day of the month. So what this is going to do, it's going to show you my daily hours by job. It's going to tell me that for the month of December, this job is budgeted for 1,051 hours. We're forecasting right now to probably be more along the lines of 1,100 hours, meaning we're already looking at a variance of 68 hours. So how did it come out with this large number? Since we're on December the 1st, remember all these numbers are based on averages of how you've done on those given days of the week. So if I look at the first once again is Thursday. The first is on a Thursday, so that means that the 60 that's represented right now, and let me circle that, this 60 is based on the average number of hours you've used on the last 5 Thursdays that have passed us. So the 4 Thursdays in November plus the 1 Thursday that ended in October. The last 5 Thursdays. So whether that be right or not, that is the average that's currently in play. So that is why your forecast right now is probably a little higher, because all these, like I said, are averaged. Obviously on the weekends, the 3rd and 4th, and then again on the 10th and 11th here, and again on the 17th and 18th, there are no hours because you don't work hours, or you haven't worked on the weekends over the last 5 prior weeks. Alrighty, so that's kind of just the projects over budget one. This is one that I think most of our users like using. But once again, any of the numbers you see on the screen, you can actually drill down and to get more detail as to what those are comprised of. Real quick, we'll go to the next one on the right-hand side. I just have a few more examples here, and then we'll wrap up our call today. But on the right there, you have the overtime percent. That green clock is showing you your overtime for the jobs that you have access to. So if I go in here right now and I look at this, currently we're looking at about 2.2% overtime for hours. And this is based on about 2% of all the time that's been collected thus far. 2% of it is overtime. So once again, if I wanted to, I could double click on that particular metric or that little panel there where the clock is. And when I go in here and double click on it, it'll actually open up a listing of all the different locations that I have access to. In this case, these are all the different companies that are currently running some type of OT hours. So you kind of see, we're on the 1st of the month and we already have overtime in play because obviously Thursday, we already hit Thursday, and we probably have one more day in our work week that's going to be affected here. So from an overtime perspective, you can run this report and say, you know what? I'm already here at DC Metro. I already have 1,000 hours accumulated, of which 7.25 of that is overtime, which means that I'm at a 0.7% right now rate of overtime. Whereas if I look at Gainesville's only accumulated 33 hours so far this month, and 5 of those hours, almost 6 of those hours are overtime, which means I'm looking at 70% overtime. So once again, this 2% number at the very bottom, that total, or that one that's reflected up here at the clock, that 2% is based on the current month. So don't fret when you go in there and panic when you see that. But nevertheless, that is the rate of overtime for that current month. So as you go on through the month, you can actually just keep close tabs of that. This particular view, obviously, you're not going to see all the companies. You're going to see your location if you are running overtime at your location. And if you are, just right-click on that location, and then you can break down that information by project, district, job, or just go into the timesheet view and see all the overtime entries that have been accumulated in Blue Force. So I can go in there and see that Joe Schmo had 20 hours of overtime over over the course of this month. Now the next metric, that's the red money bags on the far right-hand side. The red money bags tell you these are the projects that do not have budgets. So one of the key things to keep in mind here is if you see anything in this, and you log in here and you see anything in that red bag, that's telling you that you need to get on board real quick and get budgets in the system for that particular job. If you don't have a budget, then everything else in the system is going to be for naught. It's going to show you as being over budget, and the actuals would not really mean much to compare against the budget because there's nothing there to compare to. Now, one of the things I will tell you that is any of these screens, if you ever come in here and see just a simple triangle with an exclamation point, I believe it is, at the bottom right-hand corner of any of these boxes, that's actually telling you you're doing pretty good. You don't have anything that matches the criteria for that particular box. So if you have no overtime and have a little exclamation point with a little, it's almost like a little caution symbol, that's just telling you have no overtime. Or if you come to the projects without budget section and you see that little exclamation point there as well, the little triangle, that's letting you know that you currently have no projects without budgets. Now in this case, if I go into it, all that's going to tell you now is if I go into this particular view, let me double click, sorry. This particular view is going to show me all my projects without budgets, at which point that I can identify my projects and get that budget information over to the OSG so we can get this set up for you. And you go through here and see all the different pieces here. Now, one of the key things here is if you ever lose a job, okay, regardless if you're still billing it or you're still doing stuff with it, keep in mind that if you lose a job, let us know what the last workday was on that particular job, so that way we can actually go in here and make sure that the inactive date is correct for that job. Now, one of the things here, keep in mind, the start dates are showing here. None of these have inactive dates. This is telling you that these are jobs, not projects. But this is also showing you that you actually have actuals being accumulated for a couple of these. Like this job has actuals. These couple of jobs have actuals. So these are not jobs that are, these are all jobs that are current, so they need to have budgets in them. So if you see any numbers in here, any budgets, that just is letting you know that you accumulated actual information, actual numbers, and we need to get these addressed pretty quickly. All right, and let me just take you back onto the very first panel on that bottom line, and that's your variance. If you ever go in here and see a number in here, that number is telling you that's how much you're estimated to make above, the profit-wise, after taking your budget minus your forecast figures. And right now it's telling us as a company, and that's not really that's actually a true number based on the fact that there's a lot of jobs in that don't have budgets, and there's a lot of jobs in there that are over budget as it is to start the month as it is, that need to have their labor budgets corrected. But right now it looks like it's a $2 million variance, which is not a good thing. If you're looking at that number, I know a lot of people will be quite upset. But if I double click on that figure, once again, as I've done on any of these panels, I can actually drill down to the company level, go into that company, right click on the company, drill down into the job, drill down to the project or district, and actually get more detail as to why that variance is so great. So if I go through here, I'm just going to pick on the first one, it's Memphis. The first line says Memphis Company 101 has 126 jobs, 51,000 hours remaining, $431 dollars remaining. However, right now we're looking at coming in as a variance of 3,306.93, because what that is that's a difference that's been kind of forecast or figured out based on our calculation system. So from that perspective, I can right-click on Memphis. Now I'll drill down to the district level and see what that variance equates down by district, because it might just be one district that's having an issue, not all of them. So I go in there, I can go in there and see the detail. There's two districts here. You see what the variance is for each of those. And then I can right-click on that one district I want to look at and drill down to the job level or even go down straight to the timesheet by employee if I want to see the actual punches that are coming in and try to figure out, why do we have 10 employees working at job A when we were supposed to only have 7? So now you have the breakdown here, and you can kind of see which are the ones that are coming in a little shy. Now, for these that are like 4 hours, showing like your variance of 4 hours or even 24 hours, you have a whole month to kind of shave an hour here, shave an hour there off of an employee. So those aren't too as critical as these big ones that are close to 1,700 hours shy. So you can go through and figure out $1,700 shy and kind of figure out how you're going to address those. More times than not, those are the ones we need to look at, those labor budgets, because those are the ones that have major issues. All right, so kind of with that, that's the overview page. That is the key page that most of you on this call are going to be using. You're going to be coming in, logging into the system. You're going to look at this overview page and kind of get the information you need. Like I said, you can drill down into those panels by double-clicking on any of those panels, and then right-clicking on any of the data lines that come up and drilling down that way into further data reviews. Now, one thing I'll show you as we go over in our kind of our basics class, top left-hand corner, you have an option right now that's labeled as overview, but this is basically the table of contents. We're going to always label the page you're on. So you do have, like I said, you have, I think I said 7 earlier, it's actually 6 total pages in which you can go through and see sticks and square footage versus your cost plus if you ever want to see those broken out. You can always see any entries that had work orders. So if I want to see all the time that had work orders, I can go to page 4 and it'll list out every instance that I had work orders or used work orders during the current month. Page 5 will actually show you a production rate. If I want to go and see how I'm doing on the different jobs, I can actually go and take a look at my production rates. And this is just an example here. If I go in here and show you my production rates, I can go in here and show you that. Let's show you. Let me see if I can find a good one here. Let's do Rosewood Court here. Rosewood Court right now, the production rate is rather large. It shows me that they have a square footage of 337,000. It's a pretty big facility. It's a square foot job. If it's a full occupancy, budget would give them a $19,000 budget a month. Whereas some of these other ones, for example, Midway Road, their production rate is a little different, and it's because they have 100,000 square footage, and that's a fixed fee job, and their fixed budget price right now is $5,699. So this guy gives you just a big picture based on what's actually transpiring through Blue Force over to the monthly labor forecast. And once again, all I did is I hit the table of contents icon, little drop down, pick page 5. And lastly, it's page 6. And page 6 I would point out to everybody because page 6 really shows in great detail as who's logged in to this particular monthly labor forecast version 2 during the month of December. Now, to everyone's credit, we just started the month, so you'll see there's not that many people here. But if I look at the list here, and when you log in yourself, you're going to see every company, you're going to see everybody straight across the board, and that is how the system is set up to operate. So what it's going to do is going to show you, and really what you should do as a manager is go to your location, your company level, find your company number, and look at everyone who's logged in. And make sure your team, the ones that need to log in and have access to this, go in there on a daily basis and check it out. So if I scroll over, for example, I highlighted Andy Love here, but he, if you scroll over to monthly uses, that means he's used it 3 times already in December, and that really equates to 1 day out of the month. So he logged in 3 times a day. He only gets credit for logging in today. So it doesn't matter how many times you log in. We want to make sure you log in on a daily basis to get your, make sure you're reviewing your labor budgets, making sure your jobs are on track. So this is, like I said, it's purposely set up this way to expose everybody, kind of expose everyone's usage. So don't panic, like I said, when you go in here and see that you see everybody. And once again, I'm going to go back to the overview page, and that's kind of the a quick rundown in about an hour and 15 minutes of the monthly labor forecast. So once again, as a user, when you log in the first time, you go into this screen called the Hub. to which you can then go to notifications and open up a workspace for the first time, or go to open workspaces and open up a workspace if you've already worked in one prior. Once you've open up the monthly labor forecast version 2, it'll take you to this overview page, to which now you can actually see what we reviewed today, see these panels that are on the screen, more specifically to your data only. So you, once again, these are set up to only reflect your data, your area of responsibility per se, and go in there and see how your jobs are doing. So kind of in a nutshell, I would ask all of you to, once we're done off the call, make sure you can get into the monthly labor forecast. Make sure you can go up to the instructions section up here in the middle of the page and scroll down to the bottom of that instructions panel, and go to user guides, pick up those two documents or two guides that are out there. It wouldn't hurt you to print them out, or more so save them locally on your machine. That way you have them readily available for you. And that way you can refer to them as you go through navigating Hubble or go through doing the monthly labor forecast, reviewing these reports. So kind of with that is kind of my time. That is kind of what I wanted to show you today. Kind of give you a quick overview, quick run through, quick demo of the monthly labor forecast piece. And as you go through this, as you go through this for your first time, and should you have any questions or concerns, you're more than always welcome to go through the ePay help desk. Go through there and put in a help desk ticket, and a member of our ePay team will get back to you with any questions, concerns you have. If you have an issue with not able to log in to Hubble, just also go and put a help desk ticket in there, and a member of either the ePay team or the Hubble team will get back to you and ensure that you can log in. So with that, that'll conclude our webinar today. Thank you for joining. I am recording this session, so I will post the session available out on YouTube probably later today or tomorrow. And I can share that link with anybody if they're interested in seeing this webinar again or sharing this webinar with anybody else on your team. So with that, have a wonderful remainder of your December 1st, Thursday, and we'll talk to you again and catch you again on a future ePay webinar.